Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome back to In Case You Missed It. Or if you've never been here before, then just welcome. What I do here is I look at one or more things that happen during the day that perhaps because you're busy during your day, you didn't have time to pay attention, so I paid attention for you, and here I am to talk about it in case you missed it. Well, the first item I'm going to talk about, there's no way you missed it, but my insight, my comment, you will have missed because I haven't made them yet. But before I get to my comments, just wanted to mention, this is getting back to the welcome part. I'm a conservative, but everybody's welcome. I love to hear from everybody, and in fact, I live in New York. I'm broadcasting to you right now from atop my, okay, not atop, the 14th floor. It's kind of near the top, but it's not technically at the very top of a building in Midtown Manhattan, because that's where I live and work. Manhattan, New York City, the Big Apple. And in fact, there's an apple, okay, but it's not a big apple, it's a little apple, but it's kind of that New York theme apple. And if I hold it up to, see, now it looks like a big apple, but it's actually a little apple. But anyways, that's enough about apples. What I was going to say is I'm a conservative, but everybody's welcome, and I live in New York, and just about all of my friends are liberals because this is New York, and that's what you have a lot of here. Not too many conservatives like me. The reason I mention it is because there's a lot of secularization that seems to be going on these days, and I really don't think it's healthy. It really helps to listen to people who don't agree with you. And it's just too bad. For instance, if you go on Twitter, you'll find people following and wanting to be followed by people that have their same point of view. And it's really better to hear what other people are saying. So, for instance, on Twitter, I follow everybody. And it's an advantage because if, say, you're a liberal and you want to get your point of view out to conservatives, that's a way to do it. Because once you follow somebody, then if you tweet something, it goes to everybody. And it goes for conservatives too. But the reason I'm focusing on liberals is because they're not doing too well right now in winning elections. And if they want to win, they're not going to win by just appealing to their base. They have to change the minds of people like me. And I don't know how you do that if you don't talk to people like me. So that's my advice. Take it or don't take it. And if you don't take my advice, be rest assured that you're in pretty good company. You can tell just by looking at the world the way it is. It would not be the way it is if people were taking my advice. And that's the other thing. So if you share my videos, more people would hear my advice and the world would be a better place. And likewise, you don't have to agree with me, as I just said, but if you do agree with me, it would show great maturity and intelligence on your part. Just throwing that out there. And now get on to my subject, and I made some notes here. These are my notes. And, well, let's look at this photo here. This is a goose egg, that photo that you're looking at. But not just any goose egg. It's a goose egg that actually was not laid by an actual goose. It was laid by the Democratic Party, and it was laid just 2 nights ago, the Georgia special election, and they were hoping to win it, and they lost it. And I read that of the people that contributed to John Ossoff's campaign, 7,000 of the contributors were from Hollywood and California and from other parts of the country outside of the 6th District of Georgia, and only 800 contributions were from inside Georgia. So that just goes to show how many people were trying to win an election, people that don't even, and I'm guilty too, I contributed to Karen Handel. I don't live in the 6th District either, but the point is that so few people in his district, and it's not even his district because he didn't even live in the district. So those are 2 reasons, and then reason number 3, it's a Republican district. And this gets back to what I was saying in the beginning, that if you want to flip these seats to Democrat from Republican, you're going to have to change a lot of mind, and you're not doing it. You're just operating on an assumption that non-liberals hate Donald Trump as much as you do, and I'm sorry, they don't. And unless you come up with something constructive, and talk about an agenda and what you want to do, you're not going to win any election. We'll see. We have 2018 midterms coming up, and we'll see what happens. And this is actually another point we can get to, because somebody said don't put too much stock in what happened in these special elections, because history says that Democrats will take the House in 2018, because historically the party that's in power has lost seats. And you couple that with the fact that when you have an unpopular president, if you're going by the poll numbers, I saw something, his last rating was 36%, 37%, that the House switches, that the party out of power at least wins a lot of seats. But the problem with that argument is that we've had a lot of events lately that have defied history, and Donald Trump is the perfect example. Remember the blue wall? Certain states, such as Wisconsin, that a Republican had not won literally in decades, but Trump won them. And this could be a change in history. It could just be Donald Trump. We'll just have to wait and see, but I would not bet on Democrats taking the House. It could happen, but I would not bet on it, and I especially would not bet on it the way the Democrats are going right now. I mean, they're not giving anybody any reason to vote for them, especially if the Republicans come through with their health care reform, passing that, and tax reform, passing that, then you no longer have a quote-unquote do-nothing Congress. So that's my advice again. And now here's my advice for pollsters, because the polls have been wrong over and over and over and over lately, and interestingly, they've been wrong the same way, being weighted too much to Democrats and too far from Republicans. I mean, look at this election that we just had, the 6th district, Georgia. Right up to the election, you showed the election being very, very close, almost even, or you would even see the Democrat a little bit ahead. And that's not the way it turned out. She won by a good 4 points, almost 5 points. So here's my advice for pollsters, and if the pollsters don't want to do it, this is my advice to you, my faithful listeners, to do this yourselves, which is whatever the poll shows, shift 2 points from the Democrat candidate to the Republican candidate. Just do that and you'll be pretty close. So in this last election, you had it just about 50-50 right before the election. So if you take 2 points from the Democrat, he comes down to 48, and then you shift it over to the Republican, and she comes up, Karen Handel, to 52, and that's about how the election turned out. And I think if you go back to the presidential election, do the same thing with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, you're going to get the same thing. In fact, actually, you might have to shift more points to get that result, but at least you're better off than you were. And finally, take a gander at this photo. Now, this is a screenshot of a panel on CNN the night of the Georgia 6th district election. And as you can see, there are a lot of unhappy faces there. In fact, they're all very unhappy. And you may be asking yourself, why are they unhappy? Because they're reporters, they're supposed to be neutral. They're not supposed to care, or at least not express any emotion on how the election went. As far as we, the viewer, knows, they're not supposed to care. But you can see, obviously, that they do care. And how to explain this? Well, there's a blogger, his name is Glenn Reynolds, and his blog is called Instapundit. And he has a simple saying that he says when he sees things like this, and you see a lot of this kind of biased reporting, when you see a reporter on the TV or you read the New York Times, just assume that they're Democrat operatives with bylines, and it all makes sense. And that's good advice to take. Just assume that they're not reporters, they're not being objective, and they are pushing an agenda, whether it be about this election, climate change, or the Paris Agreement, or Iran, or Israel, or just about any subject you want to pick. They hold to the Democratic line. They're not reporters. And whenever you see something like this and you're trying to figure out why most reporters act the way they do, just assume that they're Democrats with bylines, and as Glenn Reynolds says, it all makes sense. And with that, I'll leave you for today. I'll be back soon with my take on an event of the day, and that's it. Bye-bye.
You got a plan, darling?
I always got a plan. They don't ever work, but I always got one.